Hey, I'm Zach, Johnny's producer on his podcast, Masters of Wealth. Today on the show, Johnny's sitting down with Tracy O'Malley, a women's breakthrough expert that's built a multi-million-dollar empire that's helped thousands of women ignite their purpose, profits, and build a legacy by giving them the tools to become bulletproof. Stick around to hear Johnny and Tracy talk about the bright side of a little indirect parenting, why it's important to take ownership over your own reactions, and what it truly means to become bulletproof.
Hello, this is Johnny Wimbrey. Welcome back to the Master of Wealth show. Another episode of an individual that we're going to have on the show that is a master of wealth. I'm super excited about this particular interview because we kind of come from the same industry of how we gotten started and how we've helped duplicate ourselves through other individuals. Please welcome to the show the multi-million-dollar entrepreneur, speaker, and author, Tracy O'Malley. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Johnny. How are you?
I love that voice. I am incredibly well. Thank you for being on the show. It's always an honor and a pleasure, and looking forward to diving into your story. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you at right now, actually?
I'm in sunny Arizona while the rest of the world is getting snowed on. I am in this is why we live here right now, January.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Where are you from?
Chi-town, baby.
Chicago.
Yes, I was born and raised in Chicago.
Why did I just get hungry when you said that?
Because they have the best food in the world that's not good for you. It's so good.
When I'm interviewing or meeting somebody from New Orleans and Chicago, I get hungry just automatically because there's a lot of good food to come out of those places. So this is the Master of Wealth show. This is a show that I put together, my team and I put together, to interview individuals who have mastered the concept of wealth, not meaning that we have arrived or plateaued. Success and wealth is a journey. It's not a destination. But the reason I put this show together is to interview individuals like you because, we both have, massive followings around the world. And I love to get the meat of new stories of individuals who are making things happen. Would you say that, not just your own personal success or wealth, would you say that the majority or a large majority of your success has come from helping women become entrepreneurs?
I have a very unique way about me that men really listen to what I have to say. I do work with a lot of women, but I gotta say, a lot of men listen when I speak, and I think it's that Chicago in me, to be honest with you. And my dad always wanted a boy. He always wanted a boy, and so from early on, he talked to me like I was a young man. And I think I got some of that edginess in me that I can polish it up, where the women take to me, but the men will also listen to what I have to say, and I'm pretty bright. So I don't know.
Well, that's an interesting dichotomy because I actually thought about that about myself when I was young. I would always say, it almost became a crutch. I'm the youngest success story in the room, or I'm the youngest top producer in the room. And I remember when it started changing, and ultimately I'm no longer the younger. However, I remember that feeling, but I remember thinking to myself, why am I able to lead people who are 10 years, 20 years older than I am, who come from a background that I can never relate to? My earliest memory of life living in a battered women's shelter, was raised around gangs and violence and drugs, and I participated, had a felony arrest when I was, a teenager, made a lot of bad decisions. So I would always second guess myself in terms of, what do I bring to the table that makes individuals listen to me? And I'm only 25 years old and I'm on stage and people are listening to me. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that you bring this certain level of authority that kind of, penetrates beyond demographics and male and female?
There's a relatability factor that I have. I mean, most of my high level clients are like male CEOs, quite honestly. And I think it was being talked to in an environment. I mean, if you know the Irish at all, they're very passionate when they speak. And
man, listen,
the men in my
right? Netflix alone has taught me about the Irish. I am addicted to anything that's Irish based on Netflix. I love it.
Well, we're a feisty bunch, that's for sure, and we're very passionate when we speak, and that alone, I think, brings an energy in of itself. However, my dad speaking to me as though I was a man a lot of times. And this was, I mean, I'm grateful for it now
Yeah.
because he would teach me how men thought and how they operated. And my dad was a very high functioning alcoholic too. So not only was I getting the education out of his mouth, I was receiving quite the education and just observing men specifically in my family and also women. This is where I also tap into the women in the family, but understanding how men thought about money. My dad was in financial planning and all of that. The way he taught me about money from as like my first memories are hearing, make money while you sleep, learn how to make money while you sleep.
Wow.
And I was like, okay.
Hold on. This is before the internet. This is before
This is
technology.
1972, baby. 1972. This is almost 50 years ago.
Wow.
My dad was saying that.
You know, you may be the first person I've ever interviewed that said that their parents taught them that. Like, make money while you're asleep. I teach that concept. I can't tell you where I learned it other than coming from the network marketing space.
But you know what? Like I heard it.
Was he in Amway?
No. Oh my God. My dad was like into life insurance. So he
Okay.
helped people. So he would see like people at their most pivotal moments, you know, when he get the call that, you know, somebody that he'd written a policy on passed away. So he would see this. And my dad was raised by Depression era parents. So he knew the concept to make money while you sleep. And he was very conservative though. So I didn't ever see him really do that other than stocks and bonds. And honestly, I found out after he passed away what that looked like. But his brother, who is 13 years younger than him, my dad brought into that industry. And my uncle, like I'm a combination of the two of them. My dad's super conservative,
I
full of
love it.
integrity. My uncle was that mayor kind of presence. Like when I told you, like, you know, when I walk in a room, I have that energy as well. But I saw my uncle kind of do the risky stuff and make money while you sleep kind of stuff. So I was able
Give me an
to
example.
hear
I
the
gotta know.
lesson.
I gotta know. Give me an example.
Oh my God.
Unless it's incriminated. I ain't trying to get the brother in trouble.
No. You know what? They've both since passed away. They're the most two influential men in my life. And I think, you know, their lessons have come full circle in their everlasting life. And my uncle
Wow.
he would be so diversified. Like he would have about 20 different things going on. So things were making money over here and they were making money over here. He didn't always have to be present in one place to be making money. And that I was like, okay, this is making a little more sense because my dad was kind of conservative
Yeah.
and, you know, more stoic. And he was the oldest of 7 in Depression era parents. And so he knew the lessons, but he wasn't at least executing them in a way that I could see. But those are my first memories of my dad. Every conversation was a lesson about money.
Really? Wow.
But they weren't always good lessons because, you know, the fighting with my parents, a lot of it
Yeah.
had to do with money because of his lack mentality or scarcity mindset. Even though he knew all the things, like the way that it was presented sometimes, like it was contradictory a little bit. And so so this is where the battle came though, is like I'm seeing and understanding the lesson because I'm very like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Like I have to understand why we're making money while we sleep, because that's really important, but
Yeah.
why? Once I understood that, but then didn't see it come into play, I was like, okay. But what I saw come into play is that when you have money, you can become abusive with it.
Yeah.
It causes a lot of problems. So I was fighting the intellect and knowledge of one part and the emotional aspect of the lesson as well. And so for a couple years there, I mean, I could always crush any goal that I have done. I've always been a worker, like go back to work kind of 13 days after giving birth kind of person. You know, had my own businesses before the industry that you and I entered into where real wealth came. And then I ended up in the car industry, which is a male dominated industry. It's like 1,000 to 1. And I was a spitfire at what I did.
In
And
sales?
to have a woman in the, the corporate end
financing?
of sales. Yeah, no, not financing, like corporate sales. So I had 300 used car dealers were who I managed. 300 of them. Can you imagine?
Jeez.
One used car dealer is hard enough, but 300 at a time. And I could wrangle them like nobody's business. And so, but
you are
I
a spitfire. I literally just got the vision of who you are and what you bring to the table just based on what you just said. Because I know that industry has a huge turnover, and so does network marketing. So does building home-based businesses. So I want to talk about when I say become bulletproof, what does that mean?
Well, growing up, bulletproof to me meant this stoic, you can't crack me. I don't feel anything. You can do whatever. And it was protecting me, but it also robbed me of a lot of joy, right? When we close ourselves off and like sitting in a room like you're in, I mean, it looks bulletproof, your room right now. It robbed me of a lot of the joy. Once I started to do my own inner work 8 years ago, right before getting into network marketing, I realized that Bulletproof was actually the opposite. You know, standing back there behind walls, that's not standing on the front line of your life. And that's not really bulletproof. That's just you're behind a wall. Like the people that stand at the front line, you know, without anybody blazing their trail, but they can see everything, but they're able to take the hits, whether it's emotionally, physically, financially, whatever. That's where you become bulletproof, you know, because you're a successful guy. I'm super successful too. Yet life happens and our heart gets hurt and things go wrong. And if I'm hiding behind a wall, I can't navigate any of that, right?
Absolutely.
It's only at the front line. I mean, you look at the police officers, they're wearing bulletproof jackets. It doesn't mean they don't get knocked on their ass, right? But they're able to get back up. And that's what becoming bulletproof is. But it requires you to stand at the front line of it all. Every emotion, every heartbreak, every even poor choice or decision that you make. But that's really where the trail gets blazed, is at the front line.
I love that. You know, I'm looking at your bio and I've followed you and I watched a few of your videos, and I see you've done some massive things and you have an incredible amount of influence in terms of building leaders up. And there's a difference between just being a leader and then being a leader of leaders. I believe, you know, your brand as you know, become bulletproof. I think it's so spot on, because what most people fail to realize, when you have when you are meshing and things are coming together under the umbrella of leadership, and then you find yourself, wow, I've duplicated myself. Now I'm a leader of leaders. And I think becoming bulletproof is mandatory if you are a leader of leaders, because it's really you that's going to take the darts. You're going to take the bullets. You're going to get stabbed in the back. And it's almost like, you know, a real leader standing in front, leading people out of love, not manipulation, not being a dictator. You're leading out of love. You got to hide those wounds in some shape, form, or fashion because you're prepared for it, which leads me to this. Would you say it's true? Like Les Brown taught me this. He's a great mentor of mine. He said it's better to be prepared and not called than it is to be called and not prepared. And here's where I think the difference between someone loving things like what we're doing right now, you're addicted to personal development. You can't be in network marketing and be a top level leader without being addicted to personal development, meaning I'm listening to things, I'm following things, I'm subscribing to things that's personally developing me. But what most people fail to realize, personal development is preparation. Like the worst time to buy a home security system is after you've been robbed. I used to sell home security systems. Like you want to get a home security system before you get robbed, right? So would you say that being bulletproof is part of preparation?
100%. And, you know, you said something earlier that really resonated. Like I had no problem in my life being a leader. Like clearly I could crush anything, but I did it in the ways that you mentioned: manipulation, dictatorship. I mean, I intimidated people, so they had to follow. That was before.
Oh, I don't see that side of you. You look
so
sweet.
I could go Chicago on people from time to time.
Chi-town bound, baby.
But it wasn't until I leveraged not just my skill set, but really realized that I don't want a bunch of me's, and I don't want people operating out of fear, because that's not sustainable for the long haul. None of that
I
is,
don't
right?
want a bunch of me's. That's like one of the best confessions I ever had on my show.
I don't, because that would be chaos.
I love
a bunch
that.
Of me's.
Let me tell you why I love that. It's you admitting that you're still in a process.
We all, until we're 6 feet under, we're in a process.
But everybody doesn't believe that. People, I'm telling you, man, I've done personal coaching for celebrities, and you know I say this all the time. There are celebrities that you see on TV, and you love them more than they love themselves. That's not success to me. Success is loving who you are, whose you are, and everything that you represent. You don't have to lie, cheat, steal, or manipulate. I love the fact that we're on the subject of leadership, because there's two types of leaders. You can lead with love, or you can lead with dictatorship. Martin Luther King led with love. Gandhi led with love. Hitler led with manipulation and destruction. So would you say that your success is attached to your ability to duplicate true leadership?
Well, it depends how you describe success.
How do you describe it?
The ability to be present in any given moment, so you can operate from a place of intention and intuition rather than just reactionary and autopilot, quite honestly.
Hold on. I want you to do that again. I want to slow down on this, because there are people watching and listening right now that is a mouthful. Say that one more time. What is your definition of success?
The ability to be present in any situation, whether it's with your children or running a multi-bazillion dollar business. The ability to be so present that you can operate and make decisions based on intention and intuition rather than reaction and autopilot. Because there are people that have billions of dollars and they're always just reacting.
Right.
And yes, they might be rich and that might be successful to you, but if you find no joy or fulfillment, or your health is about to take a crap, none of that's going to matter anyway. And it wasn't until I operated like that in all aspects of my life that everything fell into place. I'm a mom first, to my kids. I'm a single mom, have been one for 14 years, sole provider, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and financially.
Good for you.
And
I'm proud of you.
to lead in my own
That's so
home.
awesome.
Thank you. To lead in my own home, I have to be present to keep that line of communication open, right? It's just like a business. If I am not present, I don't have that line of communication open with the people that work for me, the leaders that I lead, anything like that. And so if you really want to be an effective leader and maximize the effectiveness and your skill set, I'm great at what I do, but it's because I can pull out the best in people because I'm present with them. If it's just like me, if it's just me just operating, like seriously, I'm going to burn everybody out. I will. And then I'm going to have to start all over again. And I'm pushing 50. I don't want to do that.
Well, you look amazing. Listen, I want to deal with that burnout in just a minute. I'm going to come back to that because I'm writing it down, because that's one of my key words, burnout. This lady is bulletproof. Come on, Tracy O'Malley. I love this. You just said something that I have taught on a high level leadership. I don't really bring this to the masses in a sense, but when I'm dealing with my leaders who are developing other leaders, especially in network marketing, like, while I'm talking to you right now, I have $1 million producers in, at least 12 countries around the world. And it's incredibly important to understand, if I can't get you to be present, if you want to be a robot like everyone else, if you want to, walk to the beat of somebody else's drum and you think that's success, then it's not going to duplicate. You could be listening to me right now. Here's the crazy thing, Tracy, and I really, really, Tracy, I want you to comment on what I'm about to say, because you are a master of wealth. There's no question. Anybody can be here. Like, there are people who are listening to us right now, watching us right now. What's the difference between them being here and being present?
Honestly, I think that being here, a lot of people believe you have to be so rigid. And there is an element of rigidity that you have to have, non-negotiables, your own personal kind of rules of life. However, situations are going to come up. They are. Whether it's somebody in crisis in your business, a child walking in needing a conversation. And if I am so rigid in that and put it off, I'm going to miss the miracles that can happen, whether it's business or family. I really, really am. And so that takes a level of self-mastery and self-awareness to be able to read my body language when I'm getting fired up and shutting down, even though I'm smiling on the outside and doing whatever I do. Like, it takes this mastery of self-awareness to be able to feel energy I can't even see yet. I can tell when somebody's fired up and I'm not even looking at them. I can tell when a child of mine walks in their 20s and they know I have a schedule. They can see the lights on in the office and they know that I'm doing things that are really, really important. Yet they also trust that because I'm so present, I can feel it. And as soon as I'm done, I will address it, even if I have to move some things around. But when you do that, that creates a culture around you, and people will flock to it just because of what you stand for. I like money. I can make a lot of it. I enjoy wealth. I enjoy making money while I sleep. I enjoy all of the things. But the problem is you have to really realize that that gives you the chance and the opportunity to be able to be present a lot more, right?
I love that.
And so I think that's why, like, I can be a workaholic as much as anybody. I grew up with addiction. I've battled my own, and I've worked really, really hard at it. And I have to be very mindful of letting my ego take over in that. But I've lost the two most influential people in my life in the last few years. And they both made lots of money. And both of them had the regret of not spending more time with the things and people that really mattered. And when you've experienced that, and I've faced my own mortality in the last few years, that I will not waste one moment of a miracle in my life. And sometimes that means just slowing down to speed up. I slow down. The more I slow down, the more money I make, because I'm able to be present with the things and the people that really matter. But like I said, you have to have really strong discernment, and that takes strong self-mastery of your own self-awareness. It really is important.
I love that you said that you slow down so you can speed up. That to me is mastering wealth. And I'll tell you why I say that. I believe that when you can really be present with your success, with your wealth, with your accomplishments, then you really are the one that's making it. There are a lot of people where, the money is making them versus them making the money. And I'm talking about people who have big bank accounts. If money dictates who your character is, then you're really not the one in charge. And the only way you could be in charge is if you're present. I'm going to deal with burnout, because I think that's a key ingredient to become bulletproof. Here's how I've been able to duplicate massively successful leaders. And many of these leaders that I've duplicated myself through, they come from nothing. I found it easier to duplicate people with people who have no industry background in network marketing, no industry background with building as an entrepreneur. It's easier to work with those individuals because they're hungry and they're massively coachable. The people that I see, and this goes for me too, when I find myself becoming burnt out, I can always trace it back that I'm not having fun anymore. Every time. Like, I could be doing things that look fun to the rest of the world, like speaking on stage in front of 23,000 people at an arena. And it looks like I'm having fun, and I am having fun. But the feeling of burnout comes from I'm not in my purpose. I'm just not in my purpose. I may be moving people, but I'm allowing this entity to distract me from my purpose because I can get caught up into the glam. I can get caught up into the lights. How do you protect yourself from finding yourself in a situation where people are clapping more for you than you're clapping for yourself?
I've never been one to clap for myself because I was raised in an environment that flying under the radar was actually safer. And so I would play the sabotage game. But what you said is, completely. So in fact, recognition makes me really uncomfortable, which is ironic. Standing on stages of tens of 20,000 people is hilarious to me because that never was on my radar. But when I find myself getting burnt out, I have to look in the mirror and take an inventory. It's like, okay, am I doing this for ego? Am I doing it for the greatest good? Because I know God gave me this skill set and this grit and all the challenges I've been through that I used to use as a bullshit excuse for the longest time, I actually use as leverage today. And when I feel myself getting burnt out, I'm slipping into, I'm doing this maybe to, build up something in me that I feel I need to be worthy. And so that's when that discernment to take a pause, to slow down a second. Whoa, 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 whoa. What's this really about? What's this really about? Am I doing this because of the clapping or the validation, the vanity metrics, whatever that is? Or am I doing it because God has gifted me with this beautiful message that I know, even if it impacts one in that beautiful sea of 20,000 people, as long as one's impacted, that's when I'm fire. And I don't get burnt out. And I could do this all freaking day. I can do this all freaking day because I know there's one of you out there listening saying, this girl is talking to me right now. And it's true. And when I have that come from, I can do this forever. But when I'm doing this in the 6-inch heels and, looking all good and super uncomfortable and I'm scripted, I hate it. I can still light it up and it looks like fun, but it's torture. And I get burnt out because it's not for the right reasons for me. And as a girl that wanted to fly under the radar, to just stand up there is not soul lifting. It's soul sucking for me. And it's when I can serve, I just picture one person, even when there's hundreds of thousands of people. I don't even care. If it's one, that's enough. Because I think people underestimate the power of one. In network marketing, you and I both know what the power of one right person can do.
Yep.
If we can impact one person that has the ability to have a ripple effect of gazillions of people, then that's all that matters. And as long as I'm operating from that, I don't get burned out.
That's good.
But it's when my ego starts to come into play a little bit, which we're human. It's going to. And I don't give a shit how much personal development you have under your belt. It's going to creep in because, especially if we've got a big message, there's a little something out there that's trying to keep us quiet. Right?
Oh, 100%. 100%. So someone like you're a master of wealth. You have duplicated success. You have people who follow you that you probably don't even know that's following you, and even more so today. And your people are probably going to start following me. What do you say to somebody who's watching right now that says, I want some of that. I want that fire. I want that passion. I want that desire. But they're more focused on the lack of what they don't have instead of what they truly want and desire in life.
I was coaching a very professional CEO man last night that, like, he was saying exactly what you said. He's like, God, like everything you say makes so much sense. And that's what I want. But I have a hard time believing it. I have a hard time believing that that's true. I said, well, if you keep believing that, you're absolutely right. It probably will be very challenging to get there. And I know for me, 8 years ago, when I completely took my life to ground zero, I checked myself into rehab. I walked away from my career and took my bank account down to zero and wiped out my entire social network. And I was like, okay, now what? Now what? What am I going to do? And either I bring along that trail of beliefs that haven't worked for me for 40 years at that point, and try to build something based on those old beliefs. It wasn't going to happen. And before I could build that up in myself, why I had to take it to ground zero and release a lot of the people in my life, even though they were great people, but they weren't great for me, for where I knew I could go. Now, I didn't believe I could necessarily get there yet, but I knew that it was possible. It's possible, right, Les Brown? It's possible. That's my God, I love that man. And I was hungry.
Gotta be hungry.
I was hungry. But I knew I needed to kind of be in the right playground in order to observe. I wasn't even like saying, please teach me everything. Please, will you be I wasn't doing that. I was observing what people that I deemed as successful who had what I wanted, didn't necessarily mean money. They had an energy that I wanted, a posture that I wanted. And so I just followed them along. I didn't really do anything, but it took me being in an environment that would breed belief. And at times I had to borrow some belief, especially in those early days when I was that single mom that went to rehab. Let's get the popcorn and watch this shit show. Like, that's what people were saying about me. And yet I knew that putting myself around the right people, just observing, would at least help me buy into the belief. And then when people started to recognize some things into me, they poured it into me and I just borrowed it. Didn't take long because I'm a feisty girl, like you said. But I knew that I didn't need their belief anymore because I got this. Long before the millions got deposited into my bank account, I operated as if I was already there. And when people tell me they want what I have, I'm like, great, are you willing to do what I did? And most of them are like, yeah, but. I'm like, the minute you say but, that means a no.
You canceled it. You
You
canceled it.
have to, and I'm not recommending everybody take away their safety net like I do. Like I did. Tend to operate better like that. Not everybody does. But I also knew that nothing changes if nothing changes. And the way that I was operating, the way that I was believing wasn't going to get me where I knew I was possible, where it was possible for me to go. And so wiping out my own hard drive, my own network, my own everything, my own family, even other than my two
Yeah.
kids, like I wiped everybody out to learn and believe differently. And if you really want what we have, it's going to require you to let go of some things that are holding you back. And I apologize to you right now, but a lot of it's going to be some family and
Yep.
some friends that you're hanging on to.
Man.
And environment is stronger than willpower. It is. And my
Say that
environment,
again.
although
Say that again.
environment is stronger than willpower, y'all.
Y'all got to hear what that, I mean, that sounds so simple, but not everybody will implement the simplicity of what you just said.
It's freaking gut-wrenching to do, to be alienated by my entire family, to be judged, to be ridiculed, to be kicked out of family things is not easy. It isn't. It's painful.
Wow. Oh.
But I am challenging their beliefs every time I stand up and say, I'm freaking bulletproof. Bring it. And you know what? Fire away. Fire away. I love you. And I'm just not going to change who I am because it's making you uncomfortable. I'm not. Because you know what? I'm raising the next generation. I'm raising two 20-something-year-old kids who are taking notes from me. And if I want them to play small, then sure, I'm going to keep showing them that. Hell no. Not on my watch.
Come on out, baby. I love it. So right now on the show, we have Tracy O'Malley. You are a firecracker girl. I am so honored to have you on the show, and I'm so honored to be connected with you. I love that it's not live bulletproof or be bulletproof. It is become bulletproof. And everything that you just talked about is why things don't penetrate when people are throwing arrows and shooting at you. I talk about it in my book, From the Hood to Doing Good. I wrote that book I wrote the book in 2003, so 15 years ago now. And there's a chapter in my book where I talk about how I had to implement a season of separation. And I learned this from a mentor at the time that I was serving. Like I was the guy that would serve mentors. I was the guy that would carry your bags in the airport just to be close to greatness. I'd have holes in my shoes and I would keep my feet flat so you didn't know I had holes in my shoes because I'm serving people with greatness. And that was part of the process. But I can tell you one thing that I had to master. And I would say that if there's one thing that I mastered, it was a season of separation. I didn't have any emotional connection to telling somebody bye-bye. And it was just a season. And maybe that's what made it easy for me. Maybe I didn't really have a huge challenge because I just saw it as a season. It was a season of loving you from a distance. It was a season of understanding that I could not walk into these certain environments knowing where I come from. Knowing where I come from and all the hell and all the crap that I deal with, I knew I had to separate myself because many of the things like you just admitted to yourself, you admitted to everybody who's listening, a lot of the, shit that I deal with was things that I subscribed myself to. Like I take full ownership. I have a felony arrest as a teenager because I sold drugs. I own that. And because I have to own it, I have to take control of the necessary steps that it takes to get out of it. I got myself here. It's my responsibility to get out. It's not my fault I lived in a battered women's shelter. I was a child. I was a baby. I can't take any credit for that. But here's something I'm going to say one thing. I want you to comment on what I say. And I really, really want, you have no idea what I'm about to say. And this is what I love about it. Because anybody who's listening to me right now, they will know that the preparation that you have built in your life thus far is the reason why you have become bulletproof. And here's what I want to say. I have created something in my life that has helped me become bulletproof, and this is it. It's not what happens to us in life. It's what we allow to happen in us when it happens to us. What do you say to that? What do you say to that?
I didn't grow up in a battered women's home, but I grew up in a alcoholic home. I experienced sexual assault twice before I was, 18 years old.
Wow.
I experienced a lot of heartache. And at the age of 9, I remember getting on my bike, seeking God and seeking a reason why this this was happening to an innocent person, right? An innocent child. And I remember very clearly hearing, at the time, I didn't know what it was, but I believe it was God saying, you know, this is all going to matter for something much bigger than you even know right now. And I think once I understood that, and even as a 9-year-old, I got it. But then, you know, when bad crap kept happening, I'm like, okay, I don't understand. It wasn't until I took full ownership of how I chose to react to everything, to use things as an excuses. I was an innocent child, but it wasn't until I leveraged that pain into something that was purposeful that everything started to shift, not just financially, but that heaviness in my heart. Do you know how much resentment robs you of, not just financially, but like spiritually and emotionally? And here's the thing for me. Anytime I start to feel resentment or anything come up, because we're human, we have to completely always take an inventory, just
100%.
like any business. You always have to check your inventory, right? The biggest asset you've got is you. You better be taking your own personal freaking inventory. So I take mine daily, and especially when stuff starts to come up or my body's telling me like that person pisses me off or whatever, I'm like, okay, what is this really about? What is this really, really about? And in taking that inventory, you know, I'm able to just understand that all of this has been for my good. It is all to be used for something bigger than me. The payoffs will be ridiculous, because they always are. Like, I wouldn't trade any of those. I know you wouldn't trade being raised the way that you were. I wouldn't either, because that is how I'm relatable. That's how you're relatable. It's how when somebody is sitting there across from you carrying your bags with holes in their shoes, that they know that you understand what it feels like to be them. And I want you to know, like, every person that has ever learned from me knows that although I look good and I can glam up and speak very well and make lots of money, that isn't what attracts them. It's the fact that I will never forget the hole that I crawled out of to get here. And as long as I continue to take inventory when stuff comes up, I know if I don't repair this, I'm going to repeat this. If I don't repair this, I'm going to repeat this. Not just in my business, but in my family lineage. And I don't want that. And so that takes radical, rigorous honesty and responsibility for everything in your life. Everything.
This may be the first time I've taken notes during one of my interviews on my show. Repair and repeat. I always take mental notes and I go back and rewatch, but I wanted to write that down right now. I love it. You know, my new book it's coming out. I do a whole chapter on self-inventory. It's funny that you use those words. I learned that in acting school. Acting school saved my life. Fresh out of high school, within 2 weeks, I was in acting school. I got an associate's degree in acting and theater. And not knowing, you know, the only reason I went to acting school was because of residual income. Somebody told me if you do a commercial, every time it airs, you get paid again. I didn't care about being famous. I just wanted residual income. But it's amazing. Like, I look back at it now, that was God ordained, because what I learned how to deal with me. I learned, like, my first semester in class, I remember, it's super emotional. Like, people don't really understand like what real actors go through, because you got to learn you. You've got to peel back layers. You've got to learn the elements, not just biologically, but even emotionally. And there are things that I went through that was super therapeutic for me. I literally drew on a huge picture, bigger than this wall behind me. And they just said, just draw something from your childhood. My house that I lived in was right around the corner from my elementary school. And I drew my house and I drew the path that I would walk to school. And it started reminding me of how much I never wanted to go home. I loved going to school, not to learn, but to be around other environments that interrupt my reality. And and I know we got to wrap this up, but the importance of self-inventory saved my life. I hated inventory when I worked at Wendy's. I hated inventory when I had 3 hamburger spots that I worked for. I hated it. Why? I don't want to freaking count ketchup packets. I don't want to count, buns. But what I didn't understand is I'm not thinking like the owner. I'm thinking like an employee. The owner has to know not just what is good, you have to document what's bad. And that's the hard part about self-inventory that most people will run from. You've got to take account for the things that you need to destroy and get rid of. If you don't take an account for it, it's not like, hey, I forget that I'm an ex-drug dealer. No, I don't. I forget that I lived in a battered women's shelter. I forget that I've been arrested 5 times. I forget that I got a brother serving 40 years in prison. The only difference is I didn't get caught. No, I can't forget it. That's part of the inventory. You have to inventory the good and the bad, or you will repeat. You can't repair what you ignore. I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, come on.
You can't heal if you don't feel. You can't heal if you don't feel. And just like you said, that inventory, like you got to know what you're working with, all parts of it. Man. Even the not so pretty parts. And that part is hard, but you know what? When you start to understand the power in recognizing even the stuff that isn't so great, how do you ever expect to improve?
Man, TracyO'Malley.com, you are the bomb. I appreciate you being on the show. I appreciate your heart and your passion for people. That is something that always impresses me above and beyond, personal accomplishments. I can tell that you have a heart for people. And I want to invite my listeners, I want to invite my viewers to follow Tracy at TracyO'Malley.com, and anything else that you want to share, anything that you have coming up. I want to share the stage with you in some shape, form, or fashion. We've got to do some things together. There are a lot of people out there that are hungry to be repaired, and I believe you have the blueprint, and I want to be a part of that. And I mean that genuinely. I want to be a part of helping create that blueprint that's going to patch people up and repair them so they don't repeat it. And the key word is that they don't repeat it generationally, because you don't have to live to see it repeat. It may be in your children's children. And this is good stuff, man. This is good stuff.
Aside from the legacy that I'll leave behind when my time on earth is done, like that's great. My kids will be great financially, my grandkids, whatever. That's awesome. The legacy I'm most excited about is breaking all those generational things that didn't serve my family. My family is amazing in all their own special ways, but there were a lot of things that weren't great that have been passed on multi-generational. Yeah. And the greatest success I have today is knowing the shit stopped with me. And my kids won't carry it. My grandkids won't carry it. My great-grandkids won't carry it. That is legacy, my friends. And it was making the wealth that allowed me to free up the time to be so present and take that inventory that allowed that to happen. So this isn't about money for me and fancy shit and bags. And I like nice things. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I get it.
But it's the time that it allows you to be present so that you can take that inventory, so you can repair it, so you don't repeat it. And Johnny, I am so grateful. I think what you do is incredible.
Thank you.
Your story is powerful, obviously. We know that. But I think your heart to serve is what makes it even better. So thank you for having me on. It's an honor.
I am incredibly honored. We got to get you back on. I can keep going. My producer is like, man, we're way over at this point. But this is why I do what I do. I mean, this is why I stop and slow down to do these kind of things, because I want people to live again through stories like you. And at Wimbury Training Systems here, in the Master of Wealth show, we want to get people who have mastered wealth, not just money. Money is just one ingredient. Like, you got to understand, and I say this all the time, and I'm hoping somebody's going to get it one day. Saying that money is the definition of wealth is similar to saying that sugar is the definition of chocolate cake. No, sugar is one ingredient. Money is one ingredient to being wealthy. That is what I want to pass down to my children's children. Thank you for being on the show. Hold on, let me do the official endorsement. I give you the stamp of approval. You are a master of wealth. Thank you for being on the show.
I sure am. I'm
love it.
Grateful to be here. Thank you.
Own it, girl. Own it. Own that title.
I'll own it.
God bless you.
Thanks for listening to Masters of Wealth. To find out more about Tracy, find her on Facebook at facebook.com/Tracy O'Malley page, or check out her website at tracyo'malley.com. To find out more about Johnny, check out his Instagram at Wimbrey, that's Wimbrey, and follow him on Facebook at facebook.com/Johnny Wimbrey. And to hear more episodes of Masters of Wealth, subscribe to the show on your favorite podcasting platform so that you can be the first to hear new episodes every single week. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.